Hello and welcome back into the Knicks-Verse. My name is George, and if this is your first time here, please subscribe and hit the notification bell and the thumbs ups if you like the video, which I hope you will. I kind of have a feeling you will. I have a feeling you will like it, especially if you're a Knicks fan. And if you're not a Knicks fan, you're going to find it illuminating. So stay tuned, check it out. Now, before I begin, let me just kind of tell you my approach to the season prediction, because what this video is all about is I went through every single game that the Knicks are going to play, and I predict whether they win or they lose. Every single one, all 82 games. Yes. Now, I will say, just to toot my own horn a little bit, I predicted that the Knicks would finish 41-31. Now, initially, I predicted 39-33. But very soon, after analyzing what was going on, I'm talking about last season, I realized, they're going to hold on to the fourth seed. And by the way, I predicted the fourth seed way early. Like the minute they kind of got into that fourth place position last season, I knew they were going to hold on to it. And that was a good month and a half, almost 2 months before the season ended. Now, I did also predict that they would beat the Hawks. That didn't work out. So you get some, you don't get some. But in totality, I think I've done pretty well with these Knicks. Because, obviously, I know these Knicks fairly well, like all of us. I've watched every minute of every game they've played, preseason, summer league, everything. And I do it because I'm a fan. I love the Knicks. I love the NBA, and I just have a ball doing this. And I think if you're going to use this for gambling purposes, I think it's could be a good video. Something you'll want to check back with throughout the season. And another thing is, what I've done is, in analyzing the games, I've looked at the opponents, because that's the most important thing, actually. I know my team, but I look at the opponents. So like if they're going to play Orlando, I look at the games that Orlando are playing going into the next game. Whether it's a back-to-back, whether they've been on the road, whether they've been at home playing against weak competition. I factored all of that in. And I also looked at certain teams obviously have a higher propensity to rest players. So I also factor that in, and you'll hear it as I go through it. Now, in this section where I go through month by month, game by game, just so you know, I sped it up a little bit. So if it's a little too fast for you, you can slow it down on YouTube for yourselves. But I sped it up a little bit because it's a lot of games. It's 82 games. It's, man. And I had a lot of fun doing it. I hope you have a lot of fun watching it. Another thing is, this is a best case scenario. Now, of course, with everything, margin for error. Now, of course, it's a margin for error. I'd say, just to pick a number, 5% margin of error. So 4 games. It could be a 4-game swing down, below or above. So above would be even nicer. And this does not include any trade potentials, obviously, because how can you foresee that? I have to be Nostradamus to pick that, to actually even guess. Well, I will say there probably will be some trades, but that's not what I didn't factor that in. I factored in the team that we have, the squad that's basically just finished preseason, and it's going to roll into the regular season. No injuries as well. Obviously, you can't forecast injuries. And this team, obviously, the point guards are, a concern in terms of because of their age and their health, especially Kemba. I have actually less concerns with Derrick Rose. And then, there's our centers, both our centers, Nerlens Noel is, he's still not going to be there for the opening game. But Mitch did make a comeback. Finally, he played in the final game. He looked rusty. He looked, his conditioning needs work. But I have total faith that he's going to get back to where he was. Now, he put on weight, so that's a factor. All right. So, get ready. Here we go. All right, so here we have the New York Knicks 2021-22 schedule. I thought it's pretty well done. See the whole year pretty much right in front of us. There's April. Blue is home. Orange is away games. Let's go to October. All right, so here we have the month of October. The season begins October 20th, and there's 6 games. 6 games in October. All right, so let's begin. They're going to get off to a great start. They're going to beat Boston, and they're going to follow it up with an away game in Orlando and crush them, come back home, and crush Orlando again. And because this is the typical Thibodeau team, they're going to be flowing. They are not going to back down. They're going to carry this through into Philadelphia, playing at home at the Garden against the 76ers. Who knows what's going to happen with Ben Simmons at that time, what the psyche of the team is going to be. Though they have responded well in preseason, I still believe the Knicks will take this game. They will make it their top priority to win this game. Then they're going to go on the road to the Bulls. And I believe that, the big TNT game showcase against the Sixers is going to take a little bit of wind out of their sails. They're going to go into Chicago, and they have a decent chance of dropping that game, but recovering against the Pelicans. So they will finish 5-1. Now, again, this doesn't mean that this is exactly how it's going to go. They may drop the first game against the Celtics and then win the next 5 in a row. Or they may lose that Sixers game and then that'll rally them and they go into Chicago and just win that game. So it's all relative to what happened before and what's going to happen afterwards. But the momentum of this squad, the way they're looking in preseason and the way they're put together right now, they're going to come out of the gate. They're going to be steamrolling people out of the gate. And there you're going to go. 5-1 in October. All right, so for November, what are we thinking about here for November? November's got 15 games. It's a nice split between home and away, though we do have back-to-backs. So those are going to be a problem. Now, they'll begin with Toronto. They'll beat them because Toronto, hate to say it, they're just not looking that good. And I don't think, I don't know if Siakam's going to be really in game-ready shape by then, but let's hope they will. I want everyone to be at their top form. If the Knicks are going to win, they're going to win it because they beat the other teams, because they play better. Then they're going to go into Indiana, away game. I am going to give this as a loss because if you look at the way that the schedule is, so they were on the road, which before against Chicago and then New Orleans, they come home for a Toronto game and then they go on the road immediately again. So the wear and tear of the road might start getting to them, and Indiana is going to want to prove a point that they can compete against playoff squads. So they may rally and take that game against the Knicks on November 3rd. And the same with Milwaukee. Same with Milwaukee, and also it's the second game on this mini road trip, but it's really kind of a 4-5 road trip. They'll probably drop that game as well, though I could easily see them winning it. I could easily see the Knicks winning that game, but I'm putting it as a loss because they come back home on the 10th to play against Milwaukee, so I'm going to make it a split between those two. And the Knicks they played Milwaukee well last season. They're relatively similar teams the Knicks are more improved than they were last year. Then the Bucks have improved. So then drop that game to Milwaukee in the 5th. Go home, crush the Cavs. And here I do think the Sixers get their revenge match. Plus, it's a back-to-back. It's an away game, even though Philly's not that far from New York. I'm going to put that as a loss. So the Knicks are going to start off November a little bit rocky. They're going to start off 2-3, but then they're going to get that home match against Milwaukee, and they're going to get their revenge. So then they'll even their November record to 3-3. They're going to go down to Charlotte. Charlotte, I don't believe the way that they're put together has a chance against the Knicks, personally. That's my opinion. And then here we go. The Knicks get their revenge on the Pacers because the Knicks are a better team than the Pacers, and they will eventually just always get more wins against them no matter what. Then we have the Magic. Magic, Houston, boom, boom, 2 wins with a nice break in between. After the Orlando game, they're going to be at home. Davis is going to be, work on some more things, getting them all straightened out. Any kinks that may have been happening with the team, if any issues or whatever, I think they'll work that out. They'll have those extra days to work through that. Then they're going to go to Chicago. And I think they're going to drop another game against Chicago. So, and because, Chicago's improved, and it's a back-to-back. There's 3 back-to-backs in November. Here's the thing. Knicks could win this. They're playing Houston at home, and they could just jump over to Chicago. They could take that game. So that's the one that I'm like, maybe Knicks can take that one. But I'm putting it as a loss right now. But if they do drop that loss in Chicago, they are going to come. And one of the reasons is because they have the Lakers on the 23rd here in November. big TNT game. I think the Knicks are going to be up for it. Last season, they played the Lakers very well towards the end of the season. They couldn't pull out that win, but they were in Los Angeles. This time, it's going to be in New York. Put that as a W. And same exact philosophy and thinking here against the Suns. I think the Knicks are going to take that game against the Suns because they're going to try and make a statement that they are ready to knock on the door of those upper echelon teams, those the 8 top teams in the league. They'll have to win at least one of these 2 games, but I believe that they can win both. Now, the Atlanta game, again, the back-to-back situation on the road. So we have 3 back-to-back games on the road in November after being at home. I'm putting all 3 of those games as losses, but the 3 home games as wins. They will split those, is what I believe. Now, here for November 30th to close out the month, I am giving this L to the Knicks here against the Nets. Now, if Kyrie is not playing, that could go a different way. So, there we have it. So the Knicks will end the November with a 14-7 record. All right, let's move over to December. Now in December, we got some interesting things here. Here they get they're definitely going to get that win against Chicago, December 2nd. The Nuggets come in. The Knicks have trouble with the Nuggets. I'm putting this one as a loss, though. Again, I could see them winning that game. It's a home game. It's an early game. I could see them taking it, but I believe the Nuggets are just an incredibly strong team. But then we go on the road, and we have 3 games in 4 nights with a back-to-back, and I have us going 1-2 on that road trip. I think we'll take the first one against the Spurs, and then drop the Indiana and the Toronto game. Okay. Sometimes, teams kind of lose a little bit of momentum, a little bit of energy, especially after they've had a big match, but sometimes they actually respond the opposite way. But here in this time, I think that after having battled the Lakers, battled the Suns, battled the Hawks, battled the Nets, and the Nuggets, they may be a little fatigued. They may drop these 2 games against Indiana and Toronto here. However, again, you never know. I mean, I'm trying to be as objective as possible with understanding what the team is and the team that we saw last season and what the team is looking like they're becoming, which is a pretty incredibly strong squad. All right, so now Milwaukee, a noon game, Sunday, the 12th. Now, the 12th, that game is going to go down as a W to the Knicks. And I predict the Golden State Warriors, when they come in, another big TNT game. This one has me a little bit worried, but I think the Knicks are going to go on a nice little 5-game run here. They're going to work the kinks out that they had suffered from that little mini road trip and come out strong and take the next 5 games. So we got Golden State, we go to Houston for an away game, go to Boston for an away game, and come home against the Pistons. I think the Knicks can win those 5 games. Then they have the Wizards come in. The Wizards, they're an odd team. It's hard to know where they're going to be at. This season, it's really hard to predict what kind of a squad they're going to be. Honestly, I can see the Knicks winning this one as well, and maybe dropping the Golden State game. So in some ways or another, I'm trying to look at these as a totality. So these 2 weeks, the Knicks could go 6-1 in those 2 weeks in some form or another. I mean, they could, I don't know. I just got a feeling that the Wizards are going to try to make a statement here. And the response will be, after that, the Knicks will crush the Hawks on December 25th on Christmas. The big Christmas noon game. Yes, they will get their revenge because they will have dropped the November 27th game at Atlanta, and they're going to want to basically get their retribution here, get revenge. And that's also one of the reasons why I have them dropping the Wizards game, because they might be looking ahead a little bit too much here. Then they go on the road to close out the year, to close out 2021 against Minnesota, Detroit, and OKC. All right, I have them going. They could easily sweep all these 3, but with the back-to-back situation, I do think, though, they're not going to drop all back-to-backs. They're not going to split all back-to-backs. This is the perfect back-to-back for them to sweep these 2, the Minnesota and Detroit game. And then they're going to finish on New Year's Eve against OKC. OKC is an interesting squad. They have a lot of youth and athleticism. I could just see the fatigue of this month and the whole beginning of the season maybe getting to them here, and they drop the final game of the 2021. So they'll finish December 10-5, which is sensational. So then they will be 24-12, which is about a 66.7% winning percentage. Now we go to January. Yes. Okay, what's going to happen January? January, Knicks play 15 games, and the first game is on the road. See, so they're going to go from OKC on the road. See, boom. Look at these 3 games here. They're going to go here. January against Toronto, but they're probably going to drop that game against Toronto. Toronto, even though I don't think they're going to be very strong this year, they still, on any given night, can, or given day, it's a 3:30 afternoon game, they can rise to the occasion. I mean, they've got players, Van Fleet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes. I mean, they got guys who can ball, and Barnes will just be learning and growing. So I'm going to give them this win here. You can't, they're on the road. Then they come home against the Pacers, win, against the Celtics, win. I really do have, I have the Knicks having the Celtics number this season. Will they win all the games against Celtics? No, but I think win the predominant amount of games against the Celtics here. As you can see, and we have a back-to-back home-and-home series, mini-series here, and they'll probably drop the one in Boston and win the one at home. So they'll start off 2-2 in January. Then that following week, they'll sweep all three. And because I really do think they're gonna take the Mavericks. We just match up well with them. We're gonna win that, and gonna go to Atlanta. Now the Knicks swept Atlanta 3 games last year. This will be a very interesting game on January 15th against the Atlanta Hawks. After having played them on Christmas Day, this is going to be a very big game. If the team is the team that I see developing right now, this will be a win. That's how I feel. And then they're going to carry that momentum through against Charlotte with this back-to-back Charlotte, Minnesota, and the Timberwolves there. But it's a home back-to-back. They can definitely take those 2. Then I have them dropping a game against the Pelicans here. This will be basically the Pelicans wanting to get their revenge from having dropped a home loss for them against the Knicks. So I have this one as a makeup game in a sense. Then we have another back-to-back, Clippers and Cavs. I do think that the Knicks will do everything. I think the Knicks are going to focus on trying to beat the best teams. And that sometimes will come at a cost with making them vulnerable to drop games to teams are inferior to them. And this being a back-to-back, I'm going to give the Cavs a win here. Easily could see the Knicks going the other way, but I'm going to give the Cavs the win here. And then and also we're on the road. It's the back-to-back, and then we go to Miami and Milwaukee. I'm going to have the Knicks drop both these games, but finish the month with a win against Sacramento to give the Knicks a 9-6 record against the opponents in January, which will then put us at 33-18 at the end of January. Which pretty outstanding record. That might get them third place overall in the Eastern Conference by that point. So now we have February. All right, February. February is going to be a tough month. Look at this. We got 10 games. We have an all-star break, and 5 of those games are away. So it's a real split. This is a real split. How will the Knicks do? All right, here we go. The Grizzlies. Grizzlies will lose against the Knicks at home at the Garden. Then the Lakers come. No, actually, we go to Lakers. This is the road trip. Oh, I have us actually having a rough road trip. Losing to the Lakers, to the Jazz. Look, we have Jazz and the Nuggets back to back on the road. Ooh. If we could split one of those two, I would consider this a monumentally successful trip. But we will take care of business against Golden State and against the Portland Trailblazers. So they're going to start off 3-3 in February. And then we have OKC at home and the Nets at home. Now, part of the reason why I have the Knicks winning this game against the Nets here is because with the All-Star break coming, I could see, Durant or Harden wanted that game off, and so they can get some rest before the All-Star break. But as we know, Thibodeau will not rest anybody, and the Knicks will take this game. Plus, we're at home. We're at the Garden. Then the All-Star break comes, and I imagine Julius will be on the All-Star team again, I hope. And you never know. You never know what's going to happen with RJ. If he makes that breakthrough, he could be there as well. Now, historically, and it happened last season, after prolonged breaks, Randall, it takes him a little time to get back into rhythm, and he even admitted that. So I see the Knicks dropping this game at home against the Heat, and then waking up for February 27th against the Sixers. Big national broadcast game on ABC. And the Knicks will beat the Sixers here, especially since Simmons will not be with the team by then. Well, first of all, Simmons may not play ever for the Sixers this season, so we'll see. But I have the Knicks taking that game. And mind you, these games, these are the keys. Once the Knicks start winning these type of games, like the Sixers games here, this Sixers game up here on the 26th in October, and here the Lakers game, then we'll know that this team really is for real. All right, and by for real, I don't mean, they're going to win it all. I mean that they're going to end up 3rd, 4th seed, home court advantage for the playoffs. That's what I'm feeling here. Okay, so they're going to finish February 6-4. It's a rough month. So their total record by the end of February is going to be 39-22. So they will be 17 games over 500. All right, here we go to March. Now, March is also going to be tough. We got a lot of road games in the first half of it, but then the second half, we come home and we do have some road games, but only one of the road games is really challenging, which is the Miami one on March 25th. So I have the Knicks doing pretty well overall in March, considering the West Coast road trip, which is good. Well, first of all, it starts off by going to Philadelphia, so it's a back-to-back. So we're going to win that February 27th game at home on ABC, and then drop the follow-up game in Philadelphia. And then we're on the road to the Suns. That trip out to the Valley of the Sun is a rough one for the Knicks. They lost last season, and they'll probably lose again this season as well on March 4th. And then we have the Clippers. Now, last season, the Knicks went to Los Angeles and beat the Clippers on a Sunday game, this exact game. I could see them winning again. But by then, I have a sneaky suspicion that Kawhi Leonard will be back. And if he's back, that's going to be a loss for the Knicks. But we have the back-to-back. This is the one back-to-back road game that I have the Knicks winning in March against Sacramento. I just think we just have too many weapons for Sacramento to deal with, and our defense is just too much. It suffocates them. Even though Fox has tremendous speed, but now we have guys who can get in his way. And by then, I could see Thibs utilizing Deuce McBride as our guy to try to impede these speedy point guards. Okay, so then we have against the Mavericks. Mavericks get their revenge right here after us beating them. They're gonna beat us on the road here. And then after this incredibly intense road trip, we come back home, but don't play a home game. It is an away game. It's in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center against the Nets. And by here, I do think that instead of resting guys by this point, I think that the Nets will probably want to have everyone in their top conditioning right now and trying to play as well as possible so they can roll that momentum into the playoffs. I think also psychologically, they're going to want to do everything possible to beat the Knicks this game on March 13th. So I'm giving this a loss to the Knicks, giving the win to the Nets there. Then Portland, Washington, Utah, and Atlanta come to the Garden, and they're all going to be faced with the wrath of the Tom Thibodeau Knicks that have been reinvigorated by that loss to the Nets. And again, they'll have those 2 days off in between to help kind of retool and pull things together, and they'll sweep those 4 games at home. Then the back-to-back against Charlotte. They will lose this game against Charlotte, most likely. And by the way, when I say they will win, they will lose, I'm not saying this exact game and everything. I'm giving you a feel. This could all go a different way, depending on injuries and momentum. But I'm saying overall, the team that we know, the team that we've studied, that we follow, generally, they kind of follow along a plan. But look at that last season. They surprised us with an incredible winning streak as in March. But here I have them losing this game against Charlotte, but going to Miami. And this is when I think the Knicks will finally make their major statement here against the Heat. Going to Miami in March, beating them. And beating them royally, beating them hard. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. But I see a win. I just see that because Thibs likes to, same thing that I said about the Nets, wanting to have that momentum rolling into the playoffs. I think same thing's going to start happening here. Knicks go, they win this game against the Heat, then they go to Detroit, punish the Pistons, come home for a back-to-back against the Bulls. This might be a tough game, but I can see them taking this one again against Charlotte. All right, so through the end of March, the Knicks will be 49-28 record. And for the final 5 games in April, I predict the Knicks will go 4-1 for a record of 53-29. Yes, for a 646 winning percentage, these Knicks are going to finish in 3rd place. And the reason I say that is because a 646 record has been good enough in 2020. Last season, it would have been good enough for 3rd place. In 2019-20, the bubble year, it would have been good enough for 3rd place. In 2018 and 19, good enough for 3rd place. Same for 2017 and 18. And if you go all the way back to 2016 and 2017, it would have been good enough for 1st place. Now, I don't think the Knicks are going to finish 1st place because the East is much stronger this year than it's ever been. Milwaukee's strong. The Nets are incredibly strong. The Sixers, it's hard to tell, but, if they get good value for their Ben Simmons trade, they'll be strong. So it will be difficult. I would say 4th place. 4th place is definitely within their grasp. In a 646 winning percentage. I mean, it's hard to fall below 4th place unless there's the total chaos amongst the lower tier teams where they just can't win any games at all. But like teams like the Wizards, like I have the Knicks losing that last game against the Wizards because they might be battling for the play-in. See, that's another thing. This season, like last season and the season before, the teams that were on the playoff bubble now actually have a chance to get into the playoffs through the play-in. So they have something to play for. So things are a little differently than in the past. But there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is right there. Oh, wait. 53, and 29. Yes. I really believe that the Knicks, this is the best case scenario. Now, with the plus or minus 5%, so they finish 49. Okay, 49 is very nice, almost 50. Or if it goes the other way, they could finish 47 and 25. Wow. All right. Well, this has been a ball. I've had so much fun doing this. I will say this. We know that the Knicks are going to give it their all. It's a Tom Thibodeau team, and these guys are workers. So I believe that I won't be far off from this. All right, well, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, hit the thumbs ups, and drop your comments. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of opinions about this. All right, thank you so much, and I will see you all around the Knicks-Verse.